Hello and welcome to another episode of the SheBuilds Tech Skills North America. My name is Yusra and I'm a solutions architect here at AWS, based in Toronto, Canada. And I cover financial services customers. I help financial services customers modernize their infrastructure on the cloud. We're very excited to bring to you today's episode. It's a very special one, and we're very excited about it. It's our very first Canadian guest on the show, and we're excited to share her story with you. So I initially got involved with SheBuilds program because I think it's really important to reduce the gender gap in tech. And I think one way we can do that is to highlight some of the work that women in this area have done. And this helps other women see the different personalities that work in tech and roles available and the ways you can take various interests and apply them in a job in tech. Today, I'm co-hosting this episode alongside the amazing Tamara. I will pass it over to you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much, Yusra. I'm also very excited to be co-hosting another episode of SheBuilds Tech Skills North America. My name is Tamara Gagliardi. I'm a senior solutions architect. I support healthcare life sciences customers in Southern California. And I'm also a core member of the AWS SheBuilds Tech Skills, where we highlight stories of female leaders in our community and that are also part of our customers. Usually through the stories, they share different technologies that they've been using, their path in technology, programs and projects, and also share with you what are some of the tips and tricks and skill set development, because our core objective here is to bring to you some of those skills that help you grow in your tech career. And as part of that also, we have very exciting content coming up. A few of our members of the SheBuilds Tech Skills North America team were at the AWS New York Summit that took place on July 25th. And as part of the summit, it was the first time that we had the AWS Women Off the Cloud event. And we had over 500 customers, partners, Amazonians, both female and allies, that got together to connect, share their stories, learn on how we can remove barriers in technology and empower the next generation. So keep an eye for the upcoming episodes. And jumping into today's episode, Yusra, can you share a little more about what we have prepared for the audience?
Yeah, for sure. Today's episode, like I mentioned, is a special one. We have our very first Canadian guest on the show, and we were incredibly fortunate to have a sit down with her and for her to share her story with us. So Sharon and I, and you'll meet Sharon in the next little bit, we got to interview Anne Steptoe from Wealthsimple. Wealthsimple is a financial services company. They're on a mission to help everyone achieve financial freedom. And they use technology to make investing, trading, saving, and even doing taxes simple, low cost, and a wonderful experience for their clients. I myself use Wealthsimple for several different reasons. It's helped me personally with my finances, and I love it. And they currently serve over 3 million Canadians from coast to coast. We interviewed Anne, who's the current VP of Infrastructure at Wealthsimple. She's a technology leader with over 20 years of experience in product development, enterprise architecture, quality assurance, and infrastructure operations. She's passionate about technology, mentoring women in STEM, DE&I, and leadership development. Outside of work, she loves to travel with her family, including her 3 teenage boys, watch movies in the theater on opening night, and try out new restaurants. But without further ado, you'll hear from Anne herself. So let's get started.
My name is Sharon DeCensi. I'm account executive at AWS, and we are going to be hearing from Ann Steptoe today. We are so grateful that you're here. Ann is from Wealthsimple and is our first Canadian customer to do an episode of SheBuilds. So we're very happy to have you here. Let's take a moment to hear from Ann on your current role and your company.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sharon and Yusra, for having me here. My name is Ann Steptoe. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the VP of Infrastructure at Wealthsimple. So my role as VP of Infrastructure means I oversee a department, multiple departments that include teams such as IT operations, knowledge management, development platform engineering, and infrastructure platform engineering. Wealthsimple is a Canadian company that was founded in 2014, and we are a financial services company whose mission is to help everyone achieve financial freedom. We use technology to make investing, trading, saving, and even doing taxes simple, low cost, and a wonderful experience for our clients.
Well, thanks again for joining us. And I think it would be great for our audience to hear how you ended up at Wealthsimple. What's your career journey look like?
Yeah, so I'm going to start from the very beginning. I was originally born in the Philippines, and my family immigrated to Canada when I was about 8 years old. And from an early age, my parents really encouraged me to become a doctor. That was their idea of, a distinguished career and a successful life for me. And so from an early age, I was sort of brainwashed to become a doctor. And throughout, elementary school, high school, I wanted to get good grades. I wanted to be top of my class so that I can, be smart enough to be in that field. That was one of the requirements. And when I got to university, I took pre-med. My major was in microbiology. But once I graduated and I had to take the standardized test, which is called the MCAT, in order to get into med school, I didn't do a very good job on that test. And so I didn't get high enough marks to be able to enter med school. I was devastated. My mom was very disappointed. We had talked about, potentially going to another country for me to take med school so that I could still become a doctor. I thought about joining a lab to do a work that I had the skills for, having had a microbiology degree. But I didn't want to do any of that. I realized I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to work in a lab. And so I found a postgraduate course at Sheridan College, a college here in Toronto, that was really like a boot camp in all things IT. So we had programming courses, database courses, networking, hardware, software maintenance. And I really enjoyed the programming aspect of it. So when time came for the internship as part of that program, I applied for a programmer analyst role at a local company, a small startup here. And I got it. And after about 6 months, they offered me the full-time job. And so that's how my career started in software development. And so I started out, developing in various languages, Visual Basic, Java, and really became, I would say, a really good Java developer. But even early on in my career, I knew that I wanted to help improve teams, improve people, improve processes in the company. And so I, volunteered myself for various roles that allowed me to eventually become a team lead. And so as becoming a team lead, I eventually became manager and got promoted to senior manager throughout my career. And kept advancing. I felt like really good technical skills and people skills, project management skills to grow in those different roles. And so other people in the company recognized that, and I sort of went up the ladder. And so previous to this current job at Wealthsimple, I was at the Weather Network for 7 years, where again, I was able to, go from manager to director in that company. And I learned a lot about various, not just like the programming that I was already doing, but also, a lot about DevOps and automation and infrastructure and cloud. And so that's how I sort of got into Wealthsimple, where somebody they were looking for a technology leader, somebody that knew me from the Weather Network, knew somebody from Wealthsimple, and they introduced us. And so when I started talking to them, they were looking for somebody like me who had, product engineering knowledge, who had infrastructure and DevOps knowledge. And for me, it was just like really exciting to join Wealthsimple because they were a company that was, growing a lot. They were scaling, and just a really exciting company to join, especially being this, kind of unicorn fintech in Canada.
Absolutely. And I love that this wasn't a straight line type of story. So I imagine there were some roadblocks. What kind of roadblocks did you encounter along the way?
Yeah, there was definitely roadblocks. I mean, I hadn't, because I thought I was going to be a doctor, I had not taken one computer course or one even keyboarding course. So I still had typed with my two fingers throughout like my whole life because I didn't even have, keyboarding. So there was challenges like that where I didn't have the traditional computer science background, right? So when it came time to, think about, for example, like algorithms, I wasn't trained in that. So I had to go and read that up on myself. I had to go and make sure that I was reading the books and the articles and talking to, people with experience to get the knowledge that I needed to get, because it wasn't something that I was trained on. So I think that was a big challenge, was just like trying to find out what I didn't know in the computer science field and the software technology field, and making sure that I got that information somehow and I got that experience. So I think that was one roadblock. I think the other roadblock is really, being a woman of color in this industry. You're usually the only woman of color in the room, and most of the people in the meeting and that you're talking to are going to be like men. And so that was always something where I had to feel confident enough to be in a room of people that weren't like me, and be heard and be listened to. So I think that was the other, I would say, roadblock that I continue to still face, but like I'm a lot better now in overcoming than I was when I was younger.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So, and you had your background in medicine and science, which is not the traditional route to technology. Were there things from your background that you brought in to the technology space, or that helped you in the technology space once you transitioned from one area to another?
Yeah, for sure. I think the math, I had to take a lot of math as part of my microbiology degree. And so that, of course, helped in computer science. It's all about logic and, and really it's like numbers, right? And I think that really helped a lot. The other thing that just university itself helped with was really time management. One of the things that I learned early on, even the first year university, was I had to be very intentful of the time that I spent on, whatever, and making sure that I managed my time properly so that I can do the things that I needed to do. And I wouldn't, fall behind, or I wouldn't get too caught up into like a rabbit hole into something that I couldn't get out of. And so that was more of a soft skill that I learned. But I think that really helped a lot in the computer in this industry, where you are working a lot with tight deadlines and making sure that, especially when I was both a manager and a developer at the same time, managing my time so I could do both and provide attention to both things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And a lot of folks watching, I assume, would be from non-technical backgrounds too, and they might be wondering what are some skills they might need to transition into the tech space.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one of the biggest skills is just really the ability to learn quickly. I think that's one thing I've experienced a lot in this field, is things are always changing. And the thing that's maybe popular now is not going to be popular, 2 years from now, because there'll be something new that comes in. So that ability to learn quickly and be really curious is very important, especially for non-technical folks, because it's what's going to help you really understand and dig in to these new technologies that are coming up, to these things that you have to learn in order to be successful in your role.
It's an interesting point, because change is our only constant. But I wonder, is there anything that you would have done differently at any of those milestone moments that you've achieved over time?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything I would do differently, other than, maybe having the foresight to realize that, maybe we should have went with a different solution or a different technology, sooner rather than later. Because I feel like, and again, maybe this is just normal software development stuff, where, you do something now, and then 2 years from now, it's out of date. So you have to change it again. So you're always going through like constant re-architecture, refactoring, redesign. And so, I wish that we didn't always have to do that, because there's obviously so many other things that you want to do for the product, for your customers. And so that constant churn of refactoring and redesigning and re-architecting is always it's fun and it's cool, but it's also very time consuming. And you kind of wish like, oh, I wish I had just done it this way at the start, and I wouldn't have to do it again 2 years later.
So from a personal perspective, though, do you regret any of the role changes that you've had, or do you think that you've had a learned strength out of each of them in some way?
No, I don't regret any of the roles that I had now looking back, but I do remember I sort of regretted. So when I left the last company before the Weather Network, it was called Active Network. I was a senior manager there, and I had been there for a while. And I really just wanted something new. I was not, the values of the business no longer aligned to my values. So I wanted to get away sort of from the company. And I really wanted a company that I would be able to, like, where the culture and the values fit mine. And so I went to the Weather Network. Weather Network is a major brand in Canada. They're very trusted in the Canadian, the Canadian citizens, and so they are the people, the company we look to when we want news about weather. And so I wanted to go there, and the role that I was going into was a manager role, and so I went from senior manager to manager. And so I remember in the beginning regretting that and thinking, did I just kind of screw up my career? Did I slow it down, my advancement, because I went from sort of a demotion? But later on, I realized like that was actually a very important move for me in my career, because the Weather Network taught me so much, and I wouldn't be where I am today without the leadership development, the trust they put in me, the technical technology things that I learned in that role and the different roles I had there. And so later on, as I was able to reflect, I didn't regret it anymore. But I remember in the beginning thinking like, should I have done this? Should I have kind of like, instead of like going a diagonal line in my career, should I have like come back and, kind of zigzagged? So that was something that I did regret for a little bit until, I got more perspective about it.
That makes a lot of sense.
And throughout your career, were there any challenges that you would say you faced being a woman in tech?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I mentioned before, it's just, being the only person in the room that was a woman. But there's definitely bias. There's definitely bias that I experienced. So I remember being in a meeting. It was an interview. We were interviewing a candidate for a developer role. I was the most senior person in the room. I was senior manager, and we had a manager there and a team lead that was interviewing this candidate who was a man. And I remember, we asked a question about, hey, describe your system and how it works in detail. So he started talking about the system and, sort of the architecture of it. And then he looks at me and he's like, I'm sorry if this is too technical for you. Everybody in the room, my two male colleagues, just like their mouths were open and they were just shocked that this person even said that. And I was like, don't worry, I'm okay. I understand what you're saying. But obviously, like from at that point, I was like, you're not going to get this job, right? And but just like those types of biases are common, right? That you run into. So I feel like you're constantly having, as a woman in technology, I'm constantly having to prove myself like twice over than say maybe a male colleague would need to. And so that's something that I'm very aware of. And I know that, women who are not in a senior position as me, also experience. So it's something that I continue to just be aware of, to help other leaders be aware of, so that they can recognize when, that thing is happening and they can either put a stop to it or change it.
So throughout your career, you've transitioned into a managerial role and then various different leadership roles. Was there a specific driver that drove you or motivated you to pursue leadership?
Yeah, I think part of it was I just really wanted to help people reach their potential. And I think that the best way for me to do that was in a people manager role. So that's the first thing. I wanted to make sure that I could improve, processes and the company itself. I wanted to have really, I guess, kind of hands-on ability to be able to influence that directly, improving those things in the company and having that kind of impact. And I think like third, as I progressed more in my career, I realized that I can be a role model for people who are, like the Filipino woman who maybe is just starting out in their career and not seeing anybody else in the technology field that looks like them. I think that was another thing that was important to me. And so it became even more important for me to get, like, let's say, the VP title, because I could see that as hopefully inspiring someone to continue on. Because one thing I have seen in my experience in the past, 20 years that I've been in this industry is, like, there's a lot of women that start out in software development and then leave, and they go into product management, they go into other roles, project management, because they just, they either it's not interesting anymore for them, or, like, again, they find barriers that is hard to overcome, and so they sort of quit the technology side of the business. And so I wanted to make sure that people can see that you can do it. You can still be technical, you could still be very deep into hands-on programming, still be a leader, and be able to do all those things that they would see other people be able to do.
It's a really good point, and it reminds me of a really important skill that everyone should have, not just women, but it's the ability to advocate for yourself. And so I wonder, in each step of these role changes that you had, did you advocate for yourself differently or in a different way?
Yeah, I think so. In the beginning, so really early on in my career, as I was just really starting out, one of the things I did was I noticed, like, I was in a role where I was programming in Visual Basic and Power Builder, and I noticed the company was bringing in more and more Java developers in order to build the new products, right? So the legacy products were Power Builder and VB. The new products were going to be built in Java. And so I was in the support organization at that time, not in the development organization. And so I told my boss, hey, if you're going to want someone to support Java in the next few months as we roll out these new products, can you consider me? And you can hire the VB, support person. And he was like, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And so that's what they did. So, 4 months later, they were looking for now a Java developer for support. And they gave me the role, and they hired for the VB role. And so that was it. So it was me, I guess, in that time, it was me asking and actually, like, saying, hey, I think you can do this. Can you give me a chance? Later on in my career, it was a little bit different, because it wasn't about necessarily asking for those opportunities. It was really making sure that the things that I accomplished, my successes, the wins and impact that I made, were visible to to executives, or to my manager, to his manager, and so on and so forth. Because I realized, like, as you progress in your career, it'll be different people that decide, like, who gets promoted and what your role is. And so I think what I learned was that internal networking becomes really important, and being visible to other leaders in other departments became key into helping me advance. So it wasn't just about, like, me asking. They had to kind of see, and I had to show them that I was making an impact in the organization.
That's a really good segue, because my next question was really about, tell us a little bit about how mentors and coaches and cheerleaders have really impacted and what role they've played in your career over time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I was lucky that I had good managers that advocated for me, that saw my potential, that put me up for a promotion or supported my request for a promotion. I had only maybe a couple of times where I didn't have that, but I had some really, really good managers who were also my mentor. And so having my mentor, my manager as my mentor, really helped, because they can give me advice. They're the ones that have a lot of power to give me the opportunities to have new experiences, to make different types of impacts. And so that was really important. I think the other thing that I also found, again, going back to the networking, that you can have mentors in other departments that can also help you. And so they're not just your stakeholder, they're also your cheerleader and your champion. and that was another thing that I had to learn, was that I can't just stay in my own little bubble of like my little department. I really had to go and talk to the people in sales or other departments, product, and get really, build really good relationships with them, so that they were also aware of like what I was capable of. And the one of the ways I did that, I think throughout my career, that was really, really helpful and effective, was just really joining sort of the extracurricular activities in an organization, right? So volunteering for the culture crew, which is the team that tries to kind of build up the culture, from the bottom up. Joining, I joined the DE&I committee, like the initial DE&I committee that was created at the Weather Network. And again, I got to have really good exposure to like the CEO of the Weather Network at that time, and the VP of People Ops at that time. And so like being part of those things was just really, really helpful for my career, for my growth, for my learning, and my exposure.
I love that. I think that's so neat and important. I think you're just driving home the point that you get out of something what you put into it. So being that interactive, and also recognizing that mentors and coaches can have different roles and not necessarily have to be formalized is a really good point as well.
Definitely.
So just shifting gears a little bit, I'm wondering, could you share with us how you and the team have influenced new capabilities and changed the trajectory of the projects you worked on?
Yeah. So in particular here at Wealthsimple, I have a really, really great team of, engineers, systems analysts that became engineers. I have IT operations specialists. And I think all of us have this desire to really help Wealthsimple continue to, build great products for our clients, continue to create great client experiences, but also do it in a way that's like very innovative, that is that meets our value of ship it, then improve it. So there's a lot of things that, will POC fairly quickly, will implement, and then continue to improve, right? Because the whole idea is to ship what you can so that it starts getting used, and continue to improve it, right? It's not the end of your implementation or your build, but you continue to build upon it and improve it. But the idea is like get it into the hands of the client, whether the client is an internal client like an engineer for our developer tools team, or one of our external clients, right, our customers. But get it into the hands of the client so that they can test it, give you feedback, and then use that feedback to make the product better, to make the service better. And I think my team has things like I would say the automation that we do for onboarding that the IT ops does is what to me was very, very innovative when I got here, because I had not seen that level of automation in, let's say, the procurement of a laptop for a new candidate and all of the things that are set up in that laptop, right, when they first open it up in their first day at work. And so things like that, I think, just really helps to increase the efficiency and the operational excellence here at Wealthsimple. Thinking about some of my other teams, again, they're constantly working to improve the developer experience, making sure that, when we build our code to deploy it, that our pipelines are fast, and we're reducing the error rates, and we're increasing, build success rates and things like that. So constantly improving and again, having that operational excellence and efficiency with the processes that we're creating.
So what's next for you? What's next for Anne?
I mean, ultimately, I want to be CTO. So for me, what's next is like continuing to learn. Again, as we said before, this industry is constantly changing. So now it's learning about, LLM and large language models and AI, and how do I start to, get more strategic when it comes to those types of topics. And so continuing to learn a lot, which I'm learning a lot here at Wealthsimple in those areas. And yeah, hopefully eventually just being able to, again, provide impact in different ways to companies that can benefit from the knowledge and experience that I have.
And we want to thank you so much for your time, for sharing your story and the impact that you've been having already. And we wish you continued success. I'm a huge fan and look forward to continuing to watch you succeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and that was Anne Steptoe. That was a joy to listen to. It was great listening in on her story. Yeah, I thought it was great. And the one thing that really caught my eye from our conversation was what she mentioned about mentoring and coaching. It's a common theme that we see across the different SheBuilds episodes that I'm sure tomorrow you'll be able to relate as well from our past episodes. Mentorship, coaching has been a common theme. Yeah, I think it's really important. Like mentorship and coaches are really important for advancing your career. And we've heard it firsthand from Anne. And I remember one of my mentors had said to me to find a mentor and a coach. A mentor that will expand your horizons, share their perspectives with you, share their skills, and then just kind of help you expand your network, just kind of expand your horizon from where you are to potentially where you'd like to be. And a coach will be your champion where they'll take your career goals and help you achieve them. Tomorrow, did you have any takeaways from the episode?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the fact that we keep on hearing throughout all the different sessions this different mentorship stories, different door openers, as I call them. There's also the concept of sponsors, which are those that really are speaking for you when you're not present in the room, that are giving opportunities for you to advance in your career. On my end, I had both coaches, mentors. I also like to mentor myself. And as part of the AWS SheBuilds brand, we do have the AWS SheBuilds mentoring program, which is a 12-week program where we connect mentees and mentors across the US, but also this expands across Asia Pacific and EMEA. And we're dropping here the link, be part of our community. The 2023 registration already closed and the 12-week program is already on course. But for next year, please become part of our LinkedIn AWS SheBuilds community. And those, we're looking for those to register that are either studying, working, or pursuing careers in technology. So a very important topic, I think, for all our females here in the channel and all the allies as well. And with that, I think that we're almost up to time, Yusra, I think, for today's episode.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Tamara. So we heard from Anne Steptoe today about her career journey, her transitions through the world of tech, from the beginning of her Metsai experience all the way to becoming the VP infrastructure at Wealthsimple. We have several other episodes lined up as well, so keep a lookout for that on our webpage for future episodes. And with that, thank you for joining today. We had a great time listening in. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.